So in this video, we're going to look at resampling, and I'm going to use it to create a super complex pattern. And it's going to involve taking an initial sound source, putting it into an instance of sampler, resampling it, affecting it, resampling it, affecting it, resampling it, and then rendering it out to audio, putting it into the arrange window, and then duplicating it and chopping it up. And the result goes from just this one hit here to something that sounds this complex. So it's an extremely useful tool in sound design, and this tutorial will go through a ton of the different pluses and minuses of different approaches to resampling. So let's start digging in. So this tutorial video is going to be about sampling as much as it is about resampling, because I am working with an externally sourced raw sample here. And it's this file here called raw kalimba. And this is a sample taken from a little homemade kalimba of mine. It's got a contact mic on it, so it picks up a lot of really, really good sound. And it does sound really quite nice and big and full. So I'll let you just hear the hits that I sampled off of it. So it's great. It's really nice and twangy. And I'm really quite liking that fourth hit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly go and I'm just going to take this and I'm going to slice it to a new MIDI track via transient and slice to a single sampler. And that'll set us up with just that fourth hit to work with here. I'm going to quickly rename this track Raw Kalimba Process 1 here. And I'm just going to take this sample quickly, and I'm going to delete slice 1. I'm going to go and take slice 2 and adjust its zone so I can hear it up and down the keyboard here. And I do know, just from when I was actually recording the sample, that its root key is actually A sharp. So I'm just going to adjust that, and I'm going to play a couple notes here. So next up, I'm going to go and I'm going to do a little bit of quick housekeeping on this sample. There's a little bit of a noise at the end here, which I'm going to want to get rid of. So I'm just going to quickly take the endpoint, move it in a little bit. And then I'm going to adjust the envelope so there's a little bit more of a natural tail on it. That's sounding better. So I'm going to delete this little MIDI pattern that we have by default here. I'm going to go and copy the Wompy bass pattern over to raw kalimba, and I'm just going to have a listen to this with the MIDI pattern to start off with here. Cool. So that's sounding quite nice. So next up, we can start actually processing this raw kalimba sample a little bit. And to start with, I'm going to take an instance of EQ8, and I'm going to shave out the low end here. I just want to make sure that what we're getting off of this sample is what we want. It is a naturally sourced instrument. It's a thumb piano. There's a lot of resonance in the actual body of the thumb piano. And so as a result, there's probably going to be some stuff happening down in the bottom end that I don't really particularly want, especially because it's going to be layered over top of a bass tone. So I'm just going to leave the EQ8 in high quality mode, just getting rid of those low frequencies there. I'm going to minimize that. And next up, I'm going to actually add a compressor, because there's some really nice tail on this sample, and I want to make sure that I'm actually getting that. So I'm just going to put it into RMS mode here. I'm just going to bring the threshold down until I start hearing that tail come up enough. Okay, I like that. Next up, I'm going to look to bring out a little bit of warmth in the top end. I'm going to do that using our A Bit Warmer preset on the saturator here. Let's have a listen quick. Pull down the wet dry a little bit, minimize that. And I'm also going to add a utility at the end and just roll down the gain a little bit, because I know that I'm adding a fair amount with the A Bit Warmer plugin. And now I'm going to start adding a couple really cool little effects here. I'm going to add an instance of Ableton's phaser. I really like Live's phaser. as opposed to a lot of other phaser style plugins or devices, because you can actually use it in a static manner. There doesn't have to be any kind of motion on it, any kind of cycling or LFO or anything like that, which means that we can get some really cool effects by actually finding some sweet spots and tuning them relative to the incoming sound source. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is just start triggering some notes, and I'm going to bring the frequency up and the feedback up until I find a sweet spot that I like. And 550 hertz is sounding quite nice there, actually. Now, it's important to remember that I'm triggering an A sharp, and that the phaser's relationship to that A sharp is a nice harmonic one that I'm quite enjoying there. But if I play a different note, the phaser's relationship to that note is going to be completely different. And that's where resampling comes in as a really, really useful tool. Because what I'm able to do now is take all of these effects, including the phaser, and sample them into a new track, which I can then load into a sampler and use as my new sample source. So I'm just going to create a new MIDI clip quickly here. And I'm going to take my sample, find its root note here, which is A sharp 1. And I'm going to draw it out over the course of the bar. That way we get a full tail and bring its velocity up. And let's just play that quickly. Okay, that's cool. So now I'm going to insert an audio track. And I'm going to take the audio from raw Kalimba process 1. I'm going to set it to monitor in, set it to record, and record that single A sharp note onto this audio track. So now we've got a new hit, which is the output of all of those effects from our processed Kalimba sample. I'm going to shut these two channels down now because we basically got what we want from them. I'm just going to quickly rename this processed Kalimba 1. And so I'm just going to take this and I'm going to slice to a new MIDI track. We're going to use one slice per transient. And for slicing preset, again, we're going to go to slice to a single sampler. Just going to go OK. And now we've got processed Kalimba 2. And I'm just going to go and quickly, under my zones here, we do have 2 samples again. And I'm going to want sample slice 1. So I'm just going to get rid of slice 2. And I'm going to extend its range. And I do know that its root key is A sharp 1. So I'm just going to delete this MIDI pattern here. And let's bring the volume up. Let's have a quick listen to this here. Right on. So now I'm going to take an instance of Corpus and I'm going to use the beam preset. I'm going to tack it on after my Kalimba sample here. And we're just going to adjust a couple things in Corpus. We're going to try and bring out a little bit of metallic twang here. And Corpus is quite good for that. So I'm just going to play that same A sharp. And we're going to tune Corpus and play with the wet, dry, and the gain to find a nice sweet spot here. So you can really hear a nice metallic edge coming out in that now. And I'm just going to minimize Corpus, and I'm going to go and bring an EQ8 in after this, and I'm going to find a nice sweet spot to boost here in probably the mid-range, somewhere around 500 hertz, because that seems to be where we're getting some nice pluck. So now that I've got another nicely tuned harmonic effect here with this instance of Corpus, which is playing quite nicely with that original Kalimba sample that I've already processed, I'm going to take it and I'm going to bounce it onto another track so that I can resample it again. I'm going to insert an audio track here. And I'm going to take the audio from Kalimba 2. I'm going to set myself up with a quick MIDI track. And I'm going to take that same A sharp note and extend it over the bar. bring it up a bit. And we'll have a quick listen to that clip now. That sounds good. So I'm going to set the monitor to in on audio 5 here, and I'm going to arm its record, and I'm just going to record that 1 bar. Okay, that's great. I'm just going to flip back here, and we're going to have a quick look at this sample. Excellent. And I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to slice it to a new MIDI track. And again, I'm going to use a single instance of sampler, and we're going to bring that in, have a look at the sample. Now we've got a ghost transient here, which I don't actually need, so I'm just going to get rid of slice 2. And slice 1, again, I'm going to extend its range. And again, I know that the root note was A sharp. I can get rid of this MIDI clip. And I'm just going to copy my Wompy bass clip over again. And now that we've got something a little bit more substantial to listen to, let's have a quick listen to this overall processed, reprocessed, and then reprocessed sample with all of these harmonic effects added to it. And this is going to be coming out of sampler with that instance of corpus added over top. So you can really hear the fact that corpus and that instance of the phaser have added a ton onto our original sample. If I switch back and we actually just listen to that same Wompy bass pattern without corpus, just with the phaser, it'll sound drastically different. If I take the phaser off, we'll get something a little bit closer to what the original sound would have sounded like if we just played it in sampler straight out the gate. And I'll go back and we'll listen to everything together now. And it's really important to note that with phaser and corpus, there's actually a harmonic interaction that was going on between those effects and the sample. And that by resampling those with the harmonic tuning intact, we end up with a completely different sound than if we'd simply added those on to that existing raw kalimba sample as insert effects. The harmonic relationship would have been different from note to note. So now we've got a really nice sample that we can play in conjunction with the rest of the track. So I'm just going to disable all of these process tracks, and we're going to have a listen to these 3 tracks together here. Okay, that sounds great. So now I can start adding some effects which I wouldn't necessarily have wanted to add if I was trying to create a sound like this. Certain types of effects are quite problematic here. So anything like a delay or a reverb or a flanger or phaser that has an LFO added to it for motion will play faster or slower according to the key played if it is part of the sample. So those are always, if you're trying to do something like this, better to add after the fact. So I'm going to quickly add a simple delay, and we're going to do our very typical stereo widening here. And I'm just going to bring that up in the mix a little bit. And I'm going to take a utility and add it after that fact. Bust the width up a little bit more just to create a bit more spread. Cool. Now I'm going to take these 2 and turn them into an audio effect rack. Put it all the way over to wet. I'm going to call this delay spread. And I'm going to create a bypass chain here. And let's have a listen to this together. Okay, that sounded cool. I feel like we could even get a couple more delay tails in here doing something kind of interesting. So I'm going to take the time again, and I'm going to put these one after the other. And we're going to be creating some pretty crazy effects here. Actually, I'm going to just quickly invert these. going to quickly add another phaser. I'm going to put that before the delays in the delay spread channel. I'm just going to use that to get a little bit more of a motion here. And I'm going to add a little bit of LFO here. Let's have a listen. All right. And I'm just going to minimize that. And let's have a listen to that with the other bass. Okay, so I'm going to take this track and I am going to duplicate it. And we're going to look at another style of resampling here. I'm going to take this second instance of plus corpus, I'm going to freeze it, and I'm going to flatten it. And that's going to give us a nice loop to work with here. So let's just have a quick listen to that top line here. Cool. I'm going to rename this top line actually. And I'm just going to go and I'm going to hop into the arrange window here. And we're going to start doing some stuff with this that we wouldn't be able to do with MIDI. We're going to be able to go and start chopping the audio up in some interesting ways. So let's take this track and actually duplicate it. So we've got two instances of the top line. And we're going to start doing some fun stuff. We're going to actually start reversing a couple notes here. I'm just going to take this and split it off. I'm just going to go and reverse this note. And I'm going to take the second part of this block here, and I'm going to repeat this delay tail a couple times. And I'm going to take this one and split it off, reverse it. And I'm going to do the same thing with this last one here. I'm going to reverse it, and I'm going to lead it into that final hit from our original top line. So let's just quickly listen to these two tracks together now. Cool. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to add an EQ8 to it. I'm going to kill the low frequencies in this second instance of top line. I'm actually just going to quickly rename top line here, top line accents. So this is going to coincide with our original rendered off top line here. The EQ8 is going to be shaving out the low end there. And I'm also going to add a reverb, bring it down a fair amount, bring in the decay time and the pre-delay, add some low cut. And let's also add a delay. We're going to go with a simple delay. And we'll add that before the reverb, and we're just going to play with a couple settings here. Switch into time mode, bring the feedback up a little bit, and we're going to adjust the actual delay time. For that, I'm actually just going to solo this top line accent here. Okay, I like that. Let's listen to the two together again. So I've just gone and I've added the rest of our parts to the arrange window here. I'm just going to quickly take the top line and Wompy bass and duplicate them out to complete this. So now we've got our Wompy bass, our break, our top line, and our top line accent going here. And let's just have a quick listen to all of them together. Cool, that sounded great. We can hear the top line and the bass interplaying quite well here. And bringing that accent track, which we've resampled back in and chopped up as audio and reversed and edited a little bit within the arrange window, just makes it pop a little bit more. Cool. So here is everything together again. And that is a couple different uses of resampling. We took an initial sample and processed it from its initial state to a first instance of sampler here, which we applied some effects on. We then took that and processed it out as a single hit, brought it back over into another instance of sampler, and processed it using a couple other effects, brought it back in as another single hit, then put it into another instance of sampler, and added some spatial effects to it, then bounced it in as a final track, which is the loop that complements our Wompy bass line, so it's mimicking the Wompy bass line. Then we duplicated that loop within the arrange window and sliced it up and reversed huge chunks of it and just use it to accent off of the initial top line, and brought that all together with our Wompy bass and our break to create a very complex sound, all starting from one initial tiny sample. So that is a quick demo of some of the powers of resampling. It's a super powerful way of working and should be integrated into your productions for sure.